Hi, everyone. This is Dallan Wortham, host of the Charter School Connection podcast. Excited for another episode with a great guest. We have on our show today Miss Nekisha Robertson, founder of Mickle Operational Services. So, Nekisha, welcome to the show.
Dallan, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, we're so excited. We've spoken before, and I've been so impressed with your experience and all that you do for charter schools. So could you just maybe give us an intro into how you got involved in charter schools?
Sure. So when I was in grad school, I came across an internship with KIP NYC as a data analyst intern. And I went to NYU for graduate school. I switched my major to education and public policy, and I went for the internship. While there, I learned a lot about how to manipulate data for teachers. Also went and, showed them how to use Excel to interpret their data, and just fell in love with that part. From there, I left the internship. They asked me to come back and help a school who their office manager just left. And it was 2 weeks before school started, and they're like, can you help them out? And I was like, sure. And so I lived in Jersey at the time, and this school was in the Bronx. And
Yeah.
I trekked to the Bronx
Wow.
in August, and part of the job was they were moving also. Now that I think about it, that was the second time I moved a school. They were moving up the road, and we were moving books and supplies up a hill, and I fell in love. I fell in love with the whole process of getting the school ready for the kids. And at the end of my 2 weeks, they asked if I would come and be their office manager. And I said yes. So I was in grad school. I was an office manager for KIP Academy Elementary School for a year. And that started my whole career in school operations.
Wow, that's interesting because I feel like you could have had a completely different perspective. You could have been like, oh, I'm doing all this work. I'm pushing books up this hill. I'm, a grad student with data experience. What am I doing here? But the way that you approached it with humility and hunger and wanting to serve and help, that I wasn't expecting that you would come away with that outcome of wanting to dive into it. That's so cool.
Yeah, thank you. I think what helped, now thinking about it, was the people I was working with. They had one thing. I feel like the charter schools I worked with, one thing they definitely got right were the people that they hired. And once you are doing hard work with the right people, you're going to have a good time. You're going to feel like it's not as hard as it really is.
Yeah, I love that. And do you have any experience, tips, tricks, stories of maybe how to hire the right people? Because I'm sure you learned quite a bit about that in the operational space, and then just getting hired yourself. How does a school hire the right people?
Wow, that's a good question. So at my other school, so once I left KIP Academy Elementary and got my master's degree, I ended up at Newark Legacy Charter School, which is now, they merged with Great Oaks. And I had to hire my office manager. And, I did ask her the right questions, trying to see like how she would respond to certain things. But, I don't think this is the most ideal practice, but there's just a vibe. Sometimes when you are interviewing someone, you just know there's a vibe, and there's also your intuition. And that office manager that I hired, we're still friends to this day. And we haven't worked together in going on 9 years. And it was just something about her. She didn't even have school experience. But when I say when we were in the trenches, she was there right beside me. And that, again, you can hire someone without the specific experience, but if you know they have a certain skill set as well as mindset, it's gold to me. That is my hiring strategy. I've also helped hire teachers, support with hiring teachers. And I think some of it is the same. You definitely want them to know what they're doing. The
Yeah,
experience is helpful, even if it's like a brand new teacher. There's a level where it's pedagogy is important, where they just have that thing where they just know how to teach. That is invaluable. And there's also, can the teacher be taught? You
hmm
definitely want that person. So, you know, the experience is important, definitely, but there's just, once you know that you can teach them, they have the right skills. And sometimes we don't think about skills like communication, you know,
hmm
relationship building. It's not always about the things that, you know, seem obvious. That
hmm
communication thing, especially with schools, it's so important.
Yeah.
And I think that's and that relationship building, top tier.
hmm
Once you have that skill set, the mindset, and you can be taught, you're good.
I love that. I think that's great. I think sometimes as I'm very data driven, and assuming you are too because you're a data analyst, but I feel like sometimes we forget to quantify the gut feeling, the
Hmm.
instinct, and you kind of mentioned the vibe. Being able to give value to that because our instincts are just thousands of years of data passed on from our ancestry,
Yeah.
and that has a value. And so I love that. And then finding teachers that are willing to be taught, that's priceless. Um, so you now find yourself, well, you found yourself as the office manager, and then you became the director of operations. Is that how it went?
No. So when I ended up and even I have to say a stint, because I had small stints in places in between. I did a quick stint in the Bronx still as
hmm
a operations coordinator. And it was for Bronx Writing Academy, but it wasn't through them. It was through Citizen Schools. Was it Citizen
Gotcha.
Schools? I think it was Citizen Schools. I hope
Okay.
it was. So I worked with them as an operations coordinator. And again, it was great because BWA, they wanted me to now be a part of their staff, but I was like, I don't know if I could do the Bronx for
Mm,
too long. I can't full time, no. And then I ended up at Newark Boys Chorus as an intern. I
cool.
interned there for like 6 months. And then the person I interned with, she told me about the job with Newark Legacy as a special projects coordinator. And at that time, they were asking for things that I didn't think I was aware of, but I didn't have the experience. She
Mm,
said, apply. And for me, if somebody recommends me to do something, I'm going to try. And so even
mhm.
though I didn't think I was qualified, because she gave it to me and she thought I was qualified, I decided to apply and I got a job. So my first stint was as a special projects coordinator, and then I moved up to director of operations.
Awesome. What advice would you give to someone who maybe doesn't feel qualified to apply or to pursue something?
I would say, you know, I've heard, I don't know if this is true, but they say for men, they're usually not qualified and they still apply. So I think we should just, especially as women, we should adapt. Sometimes we feel like we need to know everything or be completely prepared in order to do something. But it is truly once you get there that you figure out and you find out what you're made of. And so I would
Mhm,
say just apply, because even one, you're going to gain insight to see, is this something that I'm really interested in? Not only that, but I am really big on relationships, and you never know who you come across in that interview, even if you don't get the job, where you're now connected to that person, and you never know if you guys will still be in touch. And that has happened for me. I've applied to different jobs
mhm.
and still been connected with the person I interviewed with. Where, you know, no, when I would, yes, one job that I went for, I don't remember the job, but I connected with that person. And then I think 2 or 3 years later, she became someone who worked with me. I hired her to
Cool.
work with me in my school. So you just never know. And I
Yeah.
think that's it. When you're applying, it's about the job, but it's also not about the job. There's so many
Mhm.
benefits outside of it. And I think you should just definitely go for it.
I love that. Very, very cool. And so You can slow me down if there is some backstory that we need to get to before making the jump, but you were working with schools internally in operations. What made you jump to where you are now to working outside of schools and starting your own operational service? And is there any backstory in between before making that jump, or is it okay that okay?
Yeah, it's fine. So the thing that got me to where I am now are my children,
Mm.
my children. So that's it. When I started with Newark Legacy, I was pregnant in the interview and did not know. So I started my career in school operations pregnant,
Oh
right?
man.
So had baby number one, cool. Worked, had baby number two. Things are getting tricky. Kept
Mm-hmm.
working. And even then, I remember my supervisor at the time, she said something like, "Oh, you're going to be on the mommy track." I didn't know what a mommy track was, but for some strange reason, I took offense to mommy track. And I was like, no, I can still show up the way how I am, even with kids. I can do it. I can do it all. That's not true for me.
Yeah.
Maybe other women out there can do it all, but it wasn't true for me. And when I had baby number three, it became very clear this is not true for me. In addition to having baby number three, I moved. I moved to Pennsylvania. I was living in Jersey, moved to Pennsylvania. So now my commute went from 10 minutes to 75.
Ooh.
Yeah. And so with that, and then by that summer, I was like, I can't do this. And when I knew I couldn't do it, I had no clue I was pregnant with child number four. And
Oh.
so, and then when I started to talk to my supervisors and let them know, hey, you know what? I don't think I'm going to be able to continue. And then I even said to them, I was like, you know what? I would really love to be able to work with schools still, but in a short-term capacity. Just give them a little help that they need and just be on my way. I think that's what I would like to do. And they were like, oh, that's great. We wish you well. Also, we still have this work to do. So if you could help us get this done, that would be great. And that is how my business started. It was helping my former employers with the things that I did, and knowing that, schools, they have to be honest with their capacity at times, especially when you have a model where you don't train your operations team. So
Mm-hmm.
not only are these people spending a lot of time trying to figure out their jobs, then oftentimes you're also hit with the unfortunate high turnover because they're burnt out or they're
Yeah.
overwhelmed. And so that knowledge, either their personal knowledge or anything they've learned on the job, it goes with them. And here you have someone else coming in. And so for example, even if I were to now go back to a school with all the knowledge I have, over 10 years of experience, there's still things that I don't know because it is specific to that school.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I'm coming into that school and you haven't trained me on how you do things, the learning curve is still steep.
Yeah.
And so schools need to be honest with the fact that they're not really checking for the operations team,
Uh-huh.
and be aware that there is a lot of consultants now. Just they might not be like me, where it's like, I just want to help you with this specific project or for this certain time to help you get on your way. But there's so much help out there for the ops team because, it's the backbone of your school.
Mm-hmm.
And I think so that's why I decided, like, if I could just help um either with training or with the project, just help you for a little bit and be on my way, that's great. And since for me in this season of life, I am prioritizing my children and my family as a whole, and what my home looks like, I still have that passion to support schools. So if that could be my part-time while my kids are my full-time, that works for me.
That's awesome. So that makes complete sense. I also am growing a family with my spouse, and I think the faith that you have to be able to grow your family while being a working professional is amazing. That's so inspiring. So, and I think it's great that you said, okay, this is still something that I love. It's a passion that I have, and I can still do a lot of good. I still have a lot left in the tank. How can I continue to serve these schools
Yeah.
while also prioritizing my family? And so starting your own business, that makes complete sense to me. That's what I did.
Oh,
You pretty
nice.
much just kind of shared my story almost. And so why the name Mickle Operational Services? Where does that name come from?
Oh, so I first started off as NJR Consulting. And then I moved to PA and found out there's also an NJR Consulting. So I had this thing last year. I was like, okay, I have to change my name. And growing up, my grandma had a saying. Well, I thought it is a Jamaican saying, I think. And the saying is every mickle make a muckle, which means every small step leads to something bigger. And that's where I came up with the term Mickle. So as I was looking up to see does
That is
anybody else have this
cool.
name, I saw that it has Scottish roots. Surprising, not really, but yeah, that's where the name comes from. So my grandma used to always say, "Every Mickle make a muckle," and that's just something that that stuck with me, and that's exactly what I want to do. I truly believe in small steps make a large impact. So let me help you literally just for a little bit
Hmm.
that I do believe will help you progress by leaps and bounds.
Yeah, I love that. Cool story. And what are some, let's say I'm a charter school administrator listening to your episode right now.
Mhm.
What are some challenges that you focus on and are able to help schools overcome?
That's a good one. Um, I would say my sweet spot has been supporting schools with their government reporting. That thing is, everybody loves it. It's great. They enjoy the time they take looking through and submitting their reports to the state. And so, because of my experience doing it over and over and always want to refine the system, I'm big on there is no way we know that this thing is coming every year. And
Hmm.
every year it's still a problem,
Yeah,
So that has been my spot where it's like, let me help you out because what the thing is, especially with as a school as professional, I don't think that people realize that there is a lot of relationship building. There's a lot of um putting out fires. There's a lot of having to be the face of the school and interacting with people. And there's a lot of work that requires thinking time. I mind you, in a whole day. And then also there is collaboration and being in meetings. And there's just like, how do you get all of that done? One
yeah,
person, you're definitely, unfortunately, taking a lot of your work home. And that primarily is the thinking work, the work that where you need to focus for hours. You don't really get that opportunity on the job. So my thing is, let me help you, either if it's helping you to figure out what your system should be or helping you with the actual report, so that that's one less thing that you have to now add on top of everything else that's going on. So I would say um, the reporting itself, but then also what is your system around your school information system? How do you make sure that you're collecting information that is accurate, that you are always up to date on, so that when you do have these reports at the end of the year, no, you have this backlog of information that you've neglected because you're putting out the fires and you have to now figure it out at the end of the school year.
hmm,
So it's that training your team. So like I think schools, if you're not thinking of the summer or even the start of school now, you're already behind. So it's
yeah.
like, okay, if you start now, what are the things that we can do now so that the start of school is smooth, so that the school year is smooth, so that when you have these reports to do, it's not now an added stress on your staff. So that's the way how I like to support schools.
I love that. I think that a lot of schools might be listening right now and saying, "Oh, wow, that describes me." um, so that's great. And if they wanted to connect with you, the best place would be to go to mickleservices.com.
Correct. mickleservices.com. My email is Nekisha@mickleservices.com. Definitely check out the website. Send me an email, and that's the best. Let's chat. I do offer a complimentary call. So even if you want to strategize on what do you think your school needs, I would love to. That's the problem. I really do enjoy helping. So take advantage of that complimentary call.
Awesome. And is it okay also if people connect with you on LinkedIn? Just
Oh,
Nekisha
absolutely.
Robertson?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, Nekisha Robertson. Look, I am not there all the time, but I do show up. So yes, that's another way.
Fantastic. Great. Well, anything else that you'd like to share with us before we wrap up?
I would just I would like to share that the operations team, we love supporting you guys. We do love supporting you guys. We do commit to the mission of the school. We enjoy interacting with families, the students, as well as the staff. And I think I would just love to see schools really take some time out to invest in their operations team. And that can look like a variety of things. And the primary one is training, some form of training. When you have your PDs, make sure that there are sessions for them as well. Sometimes they won't let you know that they're drowning, and the next thing you know, they're gone. So I would say really take the time to consider how can you, one, if you don't have one, create a vision for what your operations team should look like, and then invest in them.
Awesome. Cool. Well, Nekisha, thank you so much for all that you do. Thank you for taking time out of your day to share your story with our small but mighty community. Everyone go visit mickleservices.com. And thank you so much for being on our show.
Thank you for having me, Dallan.